Welcome back to the Adventure Athletes podcast. Now, this is a bonus episode, guys, the first ever bonus episode. For the next 2, maybe 3 weeks, I'm going to be releasing 2 episodes a week. So we've got our usual Wednesday podcast scheduled, and we've got a couple of special podcasts lined up on a Friday, this being the first one. In this week's episode, I sit down with a good friend of mine, Jake Mattock. Now, you might recognise the name because Jake came on the podcast about 2 years ago now, and when he first came on, he was just a man with many dreams. He'd never done anything Adventure Athletes. He was the first person that I ever had on the podcast that we didn't have something that he's done to talk about. We spoke about his past in boxing and then how he got into work and sort of left his dreams behind. And then we just spent the whole time talking about what he wanted to do. Now, there's lots of people out there that talk about what they want to do, but this felt a bit different to me, and he's proved me right, because all the things he spoke about, he's gone and done. So, he ran a marathon on ice. That was his first ever marathon, I believe. Then he went and climbed the Matterhorn. And then to finish off with, this was his big challenge, which is why I had him on the podcast in the first place. He rowed across the Indian Ocean, and he was part of the team that were the first people across the Indian Ocean. Now, if that doesn't scream adventure athlete, I have no idea what does. He spent 71 days rowing across an ocean. That just absolutely blows my mind. And he made a promise to me that when he does it, this was the first podcast he was going to come on, because he could sort of anticipate the attention that a challenge like that would get. And he was right, and he stuck to his promise. He came back on the podcast 2 years later to tell me all about his adventures. It was absolutely great getting to catch up with Jake and his challenges, and I can't wait for you guys to hear all about it. But just before we get into it, here's a message from our friends over at Soulmate.
We're Soulmates. Whether you're new to running or an experienced runner, we've got you covered for both road and trail, from shoes to nutrition to running poles and everything in between. Use code ADVENTURE10 both in-store or online for 10% off your order.
And now, guys, enjoy the podcast. What is your call to adventure?
I think for me, there were a couple of things. One, I always had this niggling thought in my brain for what adventure I wanted to go on, which was I always wanted to row across an ocean as soon as I found out about the Atlantic race. And I just left it as something I'll do it next year, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next year. During lockdown, my stepmom got cancer, and it was breast cancer that then became lung cancer and then became brain cancer. And unfortunately, the cancer won that battle. And as well as it being really difficult emotionally to watch, and not really feel like you can do anything, I felt I don't know, I would maybe have dealt with it differently. Maybe I would have seen the diagnosis as an excuse to go and do things I always dreamed I might do. Yeah. Instead of, it's really hard to say because I wasn't in that position, but I felt like I was looking at myself being if I had a diagnosis like that, I would go and row across the ocean because I've always wanted to do that, and I wouldn't be scared of the dangers or what I might look like or whether I fail, because I'd have something bigger that would be driving me. And through the cognitive gymnastics of thinking about that, I was that is just so broken. Why do I have to wait for a horrible diagnosis to drive me to do something? And I in that moment, on my desk, I also had that Greek philosophy Memento Mori, which is remember you will still die. And it's kind of just a reminder not to get too excited about anything or not to get too sad about anything, because in any case we're all going to end up in the ground, whether it's today or in 60 years time. And that was my inspiration in the moment, was well, we're all still terminal, and there's something I want to do, and now is the time that I'm going to go and do it. So I think that was my call to adventure, which was just go and chase that dream. Like, don't worry about like the things that have been holding me back for the last 6 years. Just go and get it.
Yeah. Because last time you came on, like we were saying, you hadn't done anything really.
Yeah.
From my point of view, like, it was a bit of a risk because, like, there were some people that were like, what if he doesn't go off and do these things? Like, what if he's just another person that talks about it? And I was like, no, he's going to do it. And then here we are again, like 3 challenges deep, really.
Yeah. Maybe a couple of little bonus challenges thrown in there.
Little side quests.
Yeah, man. And it's so crazy because on that day where I had that inspiration, what you said just there, I set up a camera to myself and I recorded like a video where I was like, I am gonna do it. Like, I want to do it really badly. And I don't want to be someone who talks about the things they want to do anymore, because I've, be at the pub talking to people about the things that they've done. And I'll say, one day I want to, and I was like, I'm done saying one day I want to. And so I made like that declaration, which was like, I'm gonna do this. And I did that to myself privately.
Yeah.
And then I made an announcement like publicly on Instagram once I'd figured out a few things in the background, like, okay, what ocean am I gonna row? What's my campaign gonna be? Like, set up a website, get a logo, like do all those kind of like mumbo jumbo things. Speak to a few family members who will, like, I could ask for donations before I open the donation page so that I could create some groundswell so that people know I'm serious. Like, 2 days after I've opened up a Just Giving page to crowdfund to help me do this thing, I had like £2,000 in there because I'd spoken to everyone and been like, can you give me £250, please? please, I really want to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then like coming on this show 2 years ago, I did feel somewhat of a fraud to be on the Adventure Athletes podcast, having never done an adventure in my life. I'd maybe been camping.
Because we spoke about like a lot about like your background in like boxing and stuff and just like fitness in general. And then other than that, it was like, yeah, this is all the things I want to do and that I'm going to try and do.
Yeah.
But we had no idea what was actually going to happen. Like, you hadn't even done your first challenge yet. You're very fresh into it. Like, you just announced it, I think. I think you put out your Instagram page after coming on the podcast.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And I was like one of the first followers. And then it was just like, oh, like, this is cool that I get to follow this. And then having you back on is just like, yeah.
Really nice full circle thing. And then we'll do it again in 10 years and we'll talk about even more stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that how I planned it out in my head from a marketing perspective, but convincing everyone else and myself that I was serious about this stuff, was like the jump from never doing anything in my life to rowing across an ocean felt like almost too big of a gap, psychologically and fitness wise. And so what I did was say, I'm going to do this row in, it was pretty much 2 years from when I announced it. And in that time period, I'm going to run a marathon on ice, and then I'm going to climb the Matterhorn, and then I'll be prepared to go and set off and do the row. And those things kind of 6 months apart gave me something to train for that would push me, and when I completed each one of them, like, they gave me that courage inside of like, no, I am who I say I am. I'm like, I am an adventurer already. And so doing the row is just the next piece in the puzzle, the next domino to fall. And I was like, in all honesty, running the marathon on ice, looking back now, just feels like it wasn't really a difficult challenge. Like, it's not harder than any other marathon. I've run a marathon on the road and I've run one on ice, and the great thing about running a marathon on a frozen lake is that it's completely flat. Like, you don't get hills on water, well, unless they're waves, but like, they don't freeze like that. You don't get them in a lake. So, I did want to run it in under 4 hours. I didn't quite manage that. I did it in like 4:16. but I completed it. And I think it's just weird to think back to before doing it. I was like, oh my God, I got to do this marathon on ice. And that's like crazy. And it just feels like I was just a bit cold. You know what I mean? And what's the furthest distance you've run?
In one go, I've done 66 mile.
Yeah, like that absolutely just smashes a marathon out the park. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
knowing even the guests on this show, like how many people have outrun that, like in much more difficult terrain, like back-to-back days, and you know, all sorts of stuff. It seems crazy to think that like 42k in the cold was like a tough challenge, but it's doing these little things bit by bit that you convince other people and yourself that you're serious about these things instead of just trying to go 0 to 100 in one go.
Yeah, no, I get that. What was I training for? Can you remember when you came on?
So the thing that you were about to do was in January you did was it a kilometer a day or a mile a day?
Yeah.
Extra. So basically January 1 you ran a mile,
1K,
January 2 you ran
then
2.
2k, 3k,
Yeah. And I think that I remember following you for that, and it looked so hard when you got to like day 21 or 22, mate. You were like sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, like in tears on it. Like
day
broken.
26, I had a stress fracture in my foot, and I was crying because I wasn't a runner before that, really.
Yeah.
I'd done like a couple of ultras at that point, but like didn't train for them, just turned up and broke
I love
myself.
that. I wasn't a runner really, but I'd done a couple of ultras.
Yeah, but like it was me, so I just turned up and I was like, I have like my first ultra I did Cardiff Half 2019. 2 months later I was doing my first ultra. That was my first half marathon. I didn't train for it.
Mad.
And then 2 months later I'd done no running in between. I was like, yeah, I'll run 50k.
Yeah.
Why not? And then I tore my hip flexor on mile 6 and then ran 24 miles on a torn hip flexor, and I finished with 1 minute of the cut-off time, and then I couldn't walk for a month. So it's like that was my experience with ultras. So I really wasn't a runner. So then stress fractures in my feet, and I was like crying every day trying to fit it around 2 jobs. And there was times where I was like, right, I've got to get up at 4 so I can run 2 hours before going to work. On my lunch break, I'm running. Then I'm going to my other job. And then that gives me 4 hours to finish off this distance. And I'm like, I'm struggling to keep at pace. Like, I might not make it.
That's so killer, mate.
And then, then days 29 and 30, I got really ill. Diarrhea, throwing up.
Like broken.
And then, still finished it. That seems like forever ago for me now.
Yeah.
Because I use that as like my comparison. So that year, that whole year, I ran 1,000 kilometers, and that was 496 in January. So, yeah,
is that how many it is? Wow.
Yeah. And then this year, so far, I'm at like 2,800k already.
Oh, mate, you're absolutely killing it.
So I'm like, I've like tripled what I did last year, just this year.
And you've still got plenty of time
I've
left.
still got a few ultras to do. So
Yeah.
Plenty more to do.
It's crazy the level that your body can get to, like when you are continually training towards that goal, and you don't have in your mind like, I don't know, if you set the goal of like the half marathon and you think a half marathon is really difficult, you will get there and then you'll be relieved that you finished it and you go, oh god, my legs hurt, and then you won't do it again and you'll go back to doing like 5 and 10Ks, thinking that like, you know, 21K is you pushing yourself. But if you keep going further and further and further, you'll do, you know, the 42 and do a marathon, and then you'll do a 50k ultra and a 60k ultra, and then you find yourself doing, you know, putting yourself through challenges where you're going to do 3 back-to-back 160k ultras in like the space of a week or whatever. And it's like your body has so much more resilience than you can imagine, but you do have to push it to get there. Like you can't just like wake 100%. Up and do it the next day. It's like it takes time to like what would you call it, like smithing the sword under heat and pressure.
No, like you're saying, like you did that ice marathon and then you've like stepped up your challenges. Like my 2 years has been the same. Like, I was trying to figure out like what I had done in that time since I'd last seen you, because obviously I did that. Feels like forever ago. Then I tried my world record tyre flip.
Yeah, wow.
So I tried that, and then obviously this year I've done my 6 back-to-back ultras in 6 days.
Epic.
So it's like, yeah, I've come a long way since our last podcast, let alone you.
Yeah, man, that's so good.
Yours does seem to like, yours still blows my mind, to be fair.
I'm buzzing.
So yeah, like you did your marathon, and then Matterhorn. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I went to do the Matterhorn, and annoyingly, like I didn't get to summit the Matterhorn. And so another little caveat was like, before I went to do these challenges, one of the things that was in my mind was I really don't want to be a nearly man in my life. And what I consider that is like, I feel like what I'm capable of is up here. And I just feel like throughout my life I'm delivering over here. And I don't know why I won't push through. Because you know when you start something, the curve of progression is quite fast, right? You take something on, you seem to get better every week, if whether it's climbing or running or whatever it is. You can add like another 50% to what you could do, so you get this like euphoric feeling of just getting better and better and better really quickly. But going from good to expert is slow, painful, difficult, and like I've just never put myself through or been resilient enough, whether it's in my career or in my like sports. I've never like powered through, so I wanted to not be a nearly man. And like the first challenge I did, the marathon on ice, I wanted to do it in under 4 hours.
Yeah.
I completed it, but I did it in 4:16, so I was like, I was kind of kicking myself for being like a bit of a nearly man in that one. Then to go and do the Matterhorn, I chose a week in September to do it, and I had a guide and I had it all booked and everything. So I went out to Switzerland, spent some time with some friends, and then went down to Zermatt. And I was just like, when you see the Matterhorn, it is so impressive as a mountain. Like you're in this valley where there are tons of 4,000 meter peaks, but just the way, the shape of it, how sharp it is at the top, is so unbelievably impressive and really daunting as you're there, like looking at it, thinking, "How the fuck am I going to climb up that?" And so I met my guide. The first day we hiked up to the Hornlihut, which is like 3,200, 3,300 meters elevation up the ridge of the mountain. You get some really nice views looking down into Zermatt, especially as it goes into night. The village is all lit up and you can see it like this cute little village in the crease of the valley. You've got a really good view of the other mountains around the side, and then just this insane like vertical view of what you're going to climb in the morning. But like a couple of things were already starting to look off. So there was no one else in the hut, no other guides, like no one else sleeping there. The weather didn't look good, and someone had died on the mountain like a week before, and the person that had died was a guide. So the way that they take their clients up the mountain is they tether. So you're attached to the guide and you take it in turns to walk or climb sections, and then one of you will kind of like anchor the rope so that you can go up. And there are some fixed ropes on the mountain too. But you're not like clipped into the mountain. And someone had missignaled that they'd done a section when they hadn't, and then the guide started coming, and then he slipped and his rope yanked the guide and he fell 70 foot to his death. And I think everyone was there was a somber atmosphere for the people, for the like handful of people that were at the hut, because people were talking about it. And in the morning there was bad weather. It was like dark, cloudy, windy, and it's like 4 a.m. when we're thinking about heading off up the mountain. And my guide sits me down and he's just going like, I'm really not sure about us like going up, you know. And I'm torn now, because I'm going, I really don't want to be a nearly man, I've kind of failed on my last task. I'm here. I'm, you know, 1,000 meters elevation away from doing it, and you're like kind of not sure because you hear all the stories of like anyone impressive, and there's always doubts. You know, is this the doubt that I need to overcome, or am I being stupid? Is that like my ego that's trying to win here? And I conceded. So, you know, I listened to the guide's advice, but he said, look, we got a window of, I can't remember what it was, of like 6 hours or something like that. He said, I've paid for it. We can still go and have some fun on the mountain. Why don't we just go up for a few hours, experience as much of it as we want to have, and then when it starts to get a bit hairy, like, and we can see the weather turning, let's come back down, because it's the getting up to the summit where it's most exposed, the hardest to climb, is where we don't want to get caught.
Yeah.
So we had a really good amount of fun climbing up the mountain, and you do like it's not crazy elevation, but at 3,500 up to 4,000 meters, you do start to feel it in your lungs from being someone who's relatively fit on the ground level. You know, just putting one foot in front of the other up like big stones suddenly started to become, I was like, oh my God, this is really hard work. Some of the views were good when the clouds broke, but realistically I was kind of in fog and you couldn't see more than like 10 meters ahead of you. And probably the most difficult thing about what we were doing was the routing. Mate, you can just get lost on a mountain like that. And it seems crazy because you're just like, well, the top's up there. Like, how, like, that's my marker. I'll go up there and I'll go back down there. Like, how hard can it be? But you really, like, the crevices and the ridges and the rocks are just like, it's so huge. Like, you can really get yourself into some Barney going up the wrong place. We must have climbed for maybe 3 hours. There were a few parts where the fixed ropes were pretty exhilarating, where, you know, I'm looking down behind me and it is a sheer drop, and it just looks like I would just fall for like 10-15 seconds and just bounce off the mountain like a little stone. But you know, holding on to the fixed ropes there and climbing up it technically wasn't really very hard. Like, it was vertical and you've got to use a fair amount of body strength, but like really it's not like difficult. It's just that mindset piece of being like, this is the first time I've ever been on like the edge of a mountain, which if I did fall, I would die. And it's scary and fun to have experienced what that's like. I was never going to die on the marathon. Like, I could trip and hurt myself, so could anyone else on any marathon. This is the first time I've been in a situation where like the elements could finish my life if I'm caught in bad weather, or if I slip and fall, or I do something like I just stop paying attention. We got to like where we would call our top, which was at about 4,000 meters. So there was 470 odd left to go. It was gutting to turn around. But like in the fog and that, like I've just felt like I wasn't really getting much view either. So I was quite ready to turn around. Probably about 5 minutes afterwards, mate, I just heard this horrific cracking and crunching, and then bash, 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 bash. And I was like, did you hear that? It was rockfall, and the chill I had in my spine and the sickness I had in my stomach, I was like, get me off this mountain now. Because like, from what I've read and what I've heard, like one of the most dangerous things about that mountain is like the rockfall. And the season before, it was called off for a long part of it because it was too hot and the ice wasn't holding the rock together. And that mountain like slowly is falling apart. It's vertical in the beautiful shape that it is because pieces are falling off of it, making it sharper and sharper. And holy cow, man, that is one of the most terrifying sounds I've heard. And I was really grateful to get down there within a couple of hours and get off, because that's probably the first time I was just like terrified in a adventure space. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I can imagine why as well. Like, yeah, you hear all these stories of the deaths on the mountain, and it's another one of those things. It's like, oh, that'll never happen to me. and then you see something like that, and it's like, this could happen to me.
Yeah.
Like, I could be another number.
Totally. Because you think it's like, well, you know, if I train really hard and, you know, I make sure that I sleep well and I don't drink the night before and I pay attention to every little thing, you know, I'll make sure I don't slip. But on a busy day, you might not slip. The person in front of you might slip and fall backwards onto you, or they might dislodge a piece of rock that's going to fall down. And it doesn't, you know what I mean? It only has to be a stone the size of your fist. Like if that thing falls, you know, 100 meters and like gains some speed down the mountain and cracks you in the jaw, like you're in a lot of trouble. So yeah, it's often like the things that you don't think about that you really aren't in control of, and the weather is one of those as well. Like where you're up a mountain and you're exposed, like you really can't move that quickly. Even if you think, you know, we're talking about you running 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers in one go, to think that the difference between safety and non-safety is, you know, 800 meters. You're like, oh, I can cover that no matter what the weather. But like, you can't. You're moving like, you know, 5 meters a minute at this pace because you're taking your time to make sure you put your feet in the right place, and it's really difficult to move and not slip and all of this stuff. So it's like definitely a challenging environment, and that's something like, because I haven't been to the summit of it, like I've got to get back and complete the Matterhorn. But also like it's opened my eyes to the possibilities of what else is out there in the Alps and other mountain regions. Probably was the challenge I enjoyed the most as well. So like I want to get out and do way more mountains. That's probably the thing I'll invest in the future.
Nice. What would you say has been like the biggest lesson from those two challenges then before your row? Like what did you take from the marathon into the row? What did you take from Matterhorn going into the row?
I think they were learning how much you're capable of. That's the main thing, and that was what I wanted to get from it. Like, you know, I can take on these challenges, I can push myself to the point where I can complete them, and there's definitely more in the tank. You know, I can complete those challenges, I can do something that is longer distance over multiple days in challenging environments, and they were just little pieces of evidence that I could use in my own like mental state to say like, no, I can do this for a couple of days, and if I can do it for a couple of days, I can do it for one more day, and then one more day, and one more day, which was how I was kind of like building it up to get to the point of a really long period on the ocean.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, going from climbing a mountain, which you was, what, up there 6-8 hours?
Yeah.
Compared to rowing for 71 days?
71, yeah.
Like, that's still a big jump.
It's a stark difference.
That is a big jump. So how did you get from just being like, okay, like, I'm confident enough, I've done these challenges, I can do hard things. How did you then prepare for the row?
I think it just gets to the point of like, I know the physical part is probably one of the smallest parts of it, which sounds kind of weird, but I know I'm going to get to the point that like my body aches loads, and that I am really tired and hungry and stressed and all of these things, and you're going to reach that point within a few days, and you're going to try and be out there for months. Like the key is the mentality behind it, like by far. And I think that's why I wanted to do those other challenges beforehand, which was just like, I just want to have a couple of things in the bank to call upon that I can turn around and say, no, I am an adventurer. Like I can put myself through the difficult challenges that I previously was afraid of, and where, you know, I'm exposed to elements and things like that.
This is where like I get a bit lost, because it's like they still don't seem big enough in my head, because it's still like 8 hours, like, yeah, and then you're talking about like I'm a few days in and things are hard, and then it's like, well, it's then going to be hard for the next 2 months, and it's like, well, how do you like, if you've got no evidence, like for me, like I've done my 6 ultras in 6 days, and it's
Yeah.
like I'd practice doing back-to-back ultras, so I've like done a few weekends where I've just been like, right, Saturday I'll run an ultra, Sunday I'll run an ultra,
Fair.
and I'm like, that sucks, but like it's gonna suck more when I'm doing 6 days, and you're doing 8 hours, and then being like, yeah, 71 days.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I know, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, how do you really train for it? Because, you know, if you take a marathon as an example, you might do a half marathon in training, or like quite often in a training plan, people will reach what, like 35k, and you don't need to do a marathon in training, but if you do 35k in training, you know, you can do the last 7. But what am I supposed to do? Go out and like do a training row of 60 days so that I can tell myself, oh yeah, I can do the extra like 15 or however long it might be, because it's all kind of like finger in the air at that point depending on the conditions.
yeah. It's just the fact there's no like back-to-back days of like struggling that you've had to go through, because like now I've done my 6 and I've announced my next challenge of the 100s. I'm like, right, I know what it's going to feel like being on day 6 and being absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
Whereas you're like, I know what it's like 8 hours in and feeling rough. Like, it's still a massive jump.
Yeah, so I think part of it is just having no turn back point. Like, genuinely, when you go out, what we did was we were unsupported. So when we left the harbour in Carnarvon, and once we'd gotten, I guess, like a day away from land, like because of the way that the currents work, and we're rowing at 2 knots or 2.5 knots, which is equivalently just like, it's like the same in miles an hour. So we're really not going very fast at all. But if we want to turn around because we decided like we can't do it, we just won't overpower the currents. So you can't turn around. Like, we could call for help maybe, and it might cost us quite a lot of money because someone's going to tow our boat into the land. And so having no way of turning around, and the only way out being through, also just kind of drives you.
Yeah.
I think just like biting it off and being like, okay, I'm just going to have no safety net until I get there, like forces me to not be a nearly man. You know?
Yeah, it's really hard to be a nearly man if you don't have an option other than to go. Great way to do it.
I can tell you as well, man, like, I think day 3 was one of my hardest days. Honestly,
that early?
Mate, it was killer. It was killer. We got out, and I think the first few shifts, like, obviously I was running on adrenaline, you know, I was just like super high, rowing along, doing my 2-hour shift, and I'm like filming on my phone being like, hey guys, yeah, just done my first 2-hour shift, and like, oh yeah, shoulder aches a little bit, but ready for the next one. Wait 2 hours, do it again. And I remember like 3 shifts in, I was starting to think, do you know what, like, I am starting to ache because I've not done 6 hours rowing back to back before. You know. So we do that. We did a thing where actually at night we also we changed the 2-hour shifts to a 4-hour shift, so that the guys that were off would get more sleep. For context, anyone who's listening who doesn't know, we rowed in a team of 4 in an open rowing boat, which had a cabin on either end, in the bow and in the stern, so at the front and at the back, with 2 rowing positions. So 2 people would row, and then 2 people would be in a cabin retired, and we rowed 2 hours on, 2 hours off throughout the daytime, and then we had a 4-hour on, 4-hour off shift in the night, so that you get a bit of extra sleep. And then we did that perpetually from Australia to Kenya over 71 days. And this is me saying how, like, on day 3 I was in the locker, and what happened was, like, you know, obviously it was getting to the point where my body was hurting loads, because, you know, you get DOMS after a hard training session, but it doesn't, like, the first day after doesn't hurt the most. It's the, like, second and third day that really kill. So after 48 hours of doing the rowing, like, that's where the muscle aches were hurting probably the most, and it hurt everywhere. On top of that, the sleep schedule I just wasn't used to, and I wasn't really sleeping because, like, at first I was just excited, but then I was just not used to the sway of the water, everything sloshing around, the noise of the waves, like trying to getting off shift. And as soon as I'm off shift, my 2-hour countdown until I'm back on shift starts. So I got like 10 minutes to get my kit off and then try and get comfy. And then I also know that I need another 10 minutes to get ready again to get on shift. And I also might need to eat. I probably do need to eat. You need to eat something in between each shift. So you might get 90 minutes to like actually try and sleep. And in that time, like I wasn't really sleeping very well. Then I got seasick, and for the next like 6 days I couldn't really keep food down either, so I was just spewing it up. And I was really just not having fun at that point, as you can imagine. Like everything's aching, I'm tired, I can't sleep, I'm being sick, and I was just there like, oh my god, I've only been doing this for 72 hours. How am I gonna do this for, I guess, like, what had I done, 200 kilometers, and I've got to think like I've got to do 8,000, and I'm thinking, no, like, how am I going to make this? And what if I need to call for help because we don't have a support boat? Like, how do I do it? Will it cost more? Like, will I be able to afford it? Like, I can't just stop because the guys will throw me off the boat. You know what I mean? So I was going through that, like, the stress in my head. I was like really starting to get worried and have doubts like so early on.
Yeah. There's so many questions that I've got from that, because I'm thinking back all the way to when we first met, and I was just remembering, like, you didn't even know how you was going to afford to get the boat.
Yeah.
Like, let alone, getting the boat and getting it to Australia. But what's really bugging me is, like, how do you know, like, how did you ration food? How did you know how much food to bring? What was, like, you're eating like? Because you're self-supported, like you said. You're not getting food deliveries.
No.
You can't get, like, a Deliveroo.
Yeah.
So you're very limited to how perishable the food can be as well.
Yeah.
So, like, what were you eating? How did you manage, like, calories? Like, you're burning a lot.
Yeah, so there was a company called Radix, so Radix, and they do, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like the vacuum packed, dehydrated food. Yeah. That's it, right? And it's all vegan. We were gutted that it was vegan. We only realised that, like, actually on the road. But they have, like, these ultra packs. So each one is 800 calories. So we would have a breakfast one, and then we'd have 2 main meals each day. And pretty much you just have to add boiling water to it. So we would have a jet boil. So we had a bunch of gas canisters and some lighters. And so we would boil up, 800 ml of water, and then we'd fill a couple of packs of food. And we would try and do that 3 times a day. And then we also had snack packs that we packed beforehand. So we went to, like, a Costco, and we just bought, like, some sweets, some chocolate bars, pork scratchings, some Oreos, and other sort of bits like that. And they must have come to, they were quite small, to be fair. I think they probably were like 800 calories in total as well. And so we then got Ziploc bags, and we put one of each snack in a bag, and we did that 360 times. So we all had 90 bags each, because we were kind of predicting that it was going to take us about 90 days. So we each had 90 snack packs, and we had 90 days worth of a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner in the food. And then we also brought some, like, MCT oil and some protein shakes and some creatine and some other little bits like that we could add to our water. And so, we just made sure that each day you only take one snack pack and take your 3 meals. But, like, I mean, for the first 2 weeks I couldn't stomach anything. So I saved up so many meals because I just wasn't eating. But I was starting to get worried that, like, if I continue like this, like, I'm either going to need rescuing or I'm going to die.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like enough calories, because that's what, like, 3,200.
Yeah. it doesn't.
Like the exertion that you're putting yourself through, because it's not just like a normal day where it's like, oh, if I had 3,200 calories today, like
Yeah.
that's going to be a lot. I'm going to put on weight, and it's like, well, no, because I'm not rowing for like
Yeah.
what, like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, I think that like part of it is also like we prepared by putting on some kilos beforehand. So I would usually probably sit around 75 kilos, and I was about 85 when I left. And that 85, I didn't get 10 kilos more muscle before I left. Like that was 10 kilos of like belly fat,
Yeah.
just ready to be used up by my body. And do you know what, I didn't actually weigh myself when I got back, but I know I lost a lot, and I lost a lot of muscle too.
Yeah.
Because you're just using really specific muscles the whole time, and not your whole body. And you got to think, you ever worn a heart rate monitor when you are rowing?
I mean, I've never rowed, but yeah.
Well, honestly, try it, because the difference to get your heart rate up to maximum on a rowing machine versus even on a Stairmaster or like running is so much harder to get it up into those zones. I think like number one, being horizontal, it is easier for your heart to pump blood around your body and to the like vital areas that it needs to go. And the movement is relatively small. Even though you're using lots of different things, it's not a huge movement. And most of it should be coming from like the power should be coming from your quads and and hamstrings, and then there's obviously a certain amount in your arms, but really it's like just the grip strength to hold on to the oars at that stage. Like you're pulling back, but like the most of the power should come through your legs. And I'd love to have worn a heart rate monitor or something, but I really don't think when you're going to row for 2 hours, you know what I mean? You're not on the Concept 2 trying to smoke a 5K.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to just keep like a stroke rate of like 18 to 20 strokes a minute and try to sustain yourself for 2 hours and then another 2 hours and another 2 hours. So you really are thinking like of being conservative and lasting for a long time rather than blasting it out.
Yeah.
Obviously there are times that the weather changes and you really need to like dig in, and it can be like completely exhausting, and you come off some of the shifts and you're just like, I don't know how I'm going to get back out there, honestly.
It's just because the only thing I've got to compare it to is my 6.
Yeah.
And the amount of food I was eating on that was unreal. And like people would bring me food, so people would come out and support, and they'd be like, oh, I'm just going to stop off at KFC and McDonald's or like things like that, and they would just bring me food, and whatever I asked for I would have. Like I remember there was one point where I was running, and it was on the last day going towards the last checkpoint before the finish, and we went past the kids party, and I was just like, I was completely delusional by this point, but I was like, oh, do you reckon they've got jelly and ice cream? And everyone was like, yeah, it's a kids party. And I was like, oh, I miss jelly and ice cream. Someone messaged ahead being like, Will wants jelly and ice cream. And by the time I got there and I sat down, and I didn't know anything about this. And then the next thing I know, my dad's bringing me over a bowl of jelly and ice cream. And I'm just
legend.
like, what? Like, I got jelly and ice cream now. Like, so I'm just like,
given,
I know
what we would have given for a treat like that. Oh my God.
But like, yeah, it was literally whatever I wanted, I got. Like, my dad baked so much for the week because he was like, you're going to burn a lot of calories. And I'm like, and I'm just going to want to eat shit. So we had like 4 big tubs of just baked goods, like flapjacks, brownies, and like, I was eating way more than what you guys were surviving on, and I lost weight.
Fair.
So I'm just like, yeah, imagining how much you guys lost. Like,
yeah, and we did, we did have a few other extra bits. Like, what did we have? We had like tubs of peanut butter, like gigantic ones that we got from Costco that we would like add to our breakfast, sort of like ration pack.
Yeah.
That, and what was the other thing that we had? I can't remember what the other thing that we had that we were adding in was. Honey. It was honey, yeah. So we had like a huge bottle of honey, and we had a big bottle of peanut butter. And I'll be honest, like my partner Taff, who I shared the cabin with, he's not a big fan of peanut butter, and I was just like spooning it out of the tub and like because like for the first 3 weeks, like I said, like it took me ages to get to the point that I was eating 3 full meals. and I definitely wasn't putting peanut butter in them. But then, like, once I got used to the sea and like my stomach wasn't so bad, I realized like we're way ahead on this. Like I've got like basically a full tub of peanut butter, so I was just like taking a couple of spoonfuls before I'd go on shift and stuff. So I was like sustained almost entirely on peanut butter for like a month.
Yeah. Once you got like closer to the end, because you said you'd prep for 90 days.
Yeah.
Was you just like 10 days out, like, oh, we're gonna make it sooner, like let's dig into the rations, or did you sort of like be like, oh well,
I fucked up on some of this. Like I was really bad. So some of the rations there was no worry about. Like the main food rations, no stress. But the rations that were the biggest worry for me that people definitely wouldn't think about is wet wipes, baby wipes. We had packed something, I can't remember how many it was, but like tons of packs of baby wipes, and we had calculated that we had 7 wipes a day each, and that was our shower, that was our toilet wipe, and that was a wipe for anything else that you might want to do on a long journey like that. And so you imagine on a day you're going to want to go to the toilet, and so you're going to want to use at least one wipe for that. And I got pretty efficient at using one. And now I'm thinking I've got 6 wipes left. But after a 2-hour shift, you have been sprayed and smashed in the face by so many waves. You're just like, I would really like to wipe the salt off my face. But you're going to do more than 6 shifts in a day. So what you're going to do, if you use one wipe per shift, like you're going to be out of wipes by the end, and you're going to like, so you have to think about rationing them. We had this 2-week period where we were absolutely flying, maybe 10 days, I don't know, but where we were doing 2.5 knots before, we were now doing like 2.5, 3 knots. And each day that we kept up a full 3 knots or more, like we were shaving off another half day towards the end. So if you think about that over like a 10-day period, over a 2-week period, we would think, oh my god, we might do it in like 81 days, and then it got down to we might do it in 75 days, and then it got down to like we're probably going to do it in like 65 days. And my nutsack was really, really sore because the weather just didn't let up. And so getting up, putting your wet clothes back on, sitting on the saddle where your like balls are chafing and there's salt water on them, which is like gritty, and like there was no letting up. And like this isn't too much information for anyone, but like I just had white sores all around my nutsack. Well, I mean, we all did. That's just what happens. And it just got to the point where like the delicacy of my movements was based totally around how much my nutsack hurt. But when we got close to the end, I started thinking, okay, well, never mind like wiping the salt off my face. At the end of at the beginning of my shift, what I was doing was I was taking a wet wipe and I was making a nice little packet around my nuts, and so it was like my nuts were wrapped in a wet wipe and then it was sitting out on the thing for my shift row, and then afterwards like I would wipe it off and then like bin the wipe. And I was kind of doing this in secret because I knew if anyone knew I was using my wipes at this rate, like they'd be like, what are you doing? So, but I was like, but my nuts just need it so badly. And then we hit the tip of Madagascar, which is like still 1,000 kilometers out, and at the rate that we were going, I don't know, we're thinking like it's going to be a couple of weeks. But mate, we hit this point and we were not in the currents, and we slowed down to like 1.5 knots. And all of a sudden, like all this work that we'd done, every day we were going, oh, we reckon it'd be about 2 weeks. 4 or 5 days would go by and we'd be like, oh, it's probably going to be another 2 weeks. 4 or 5 days would go by, we'd go, probably going to be 2 weeks. And we were just like, oh God, it's like Groundhog Day. We're not getting any closer to the finish. And like, we're just at wit's end at that point. We're sick of each other. We're all like sick of not sleeping. We're sick of rowing. And like, we're like, I just can't be dealing with it now. And I had this panic because not only were we close to the finish, but running out of stuff, and the conditions just like stressing us out because it was slowing us down. Well, on the coast of Africa, it goes Tanzania, Kenya with a short coastline, and then Somalia. And we were initially aiming for Tanzania, but because of the currents and a couple of other bits, we probably weren't going to make Tanzania. So we were going to go for Kenya. And then we started to get nervous that like we might not make the coastline of Kenya. And if we didn't make the coastline of Kenya, we had a dilemma of, do we try and go into the coastline of Somalia, or do we stay on the boat because Somalia is quite dangerous and go all the way up past the coastline of Somalia and then go to Oman? And I don't know how long that coastline is because I've forgotten, but like at the time we were calculating it might be another like 2 weeks or 3 weeks because it was a long way. Fortunately, I was like, well, I've definitely got enough food, but I'm not going to be able to wipe my ass if I go for a number 2. And so I was like panicking. For one, I was like, I just can't spend any more time on this boat. Like, I'm like nearly dead. I really don't want that. Like, there was the one thing of the fear of the elements, like the ocean being so powerful, the fear of like, I don't know, dumb stuff I would think about, like what if I overexert myself and have a heart attack or get injured, or all these different things that go through your mind. The thing that I hadn't considered was the fear of terrorists and landing in a terrorist state. And I was just like, I think that's my limit. I'm not doing it. If we end up going to past Somalia, like I want off the boat, but also like, who's going to come get me? I'm stuck. I want to scream and I want to lose my mind, but like I'm stuck on the boat. Fortunately, and this again was like in my mind where I've said to you, like being a nearly man was the thing that I wanted to overcome. The story I was telling myself was I didn't finish the marathon in the time I wanted to finish it in. Granted, I finished, but I didn't do it in the sub 4. I didn't finish the Matterhorn, even though I got to 4,000 meters and I've had a really good experience of being up there. I didn't quite finish. And even if I'd rowed 7,500 kilometers from Australia across the vast Indian Ocean, got past Madagascar, got 100 kilometers off the shore of Kenya, and then got picked up, I would be like, oh, I nearly did it and I didn't do it. So I was like battling this whole, like, what do I do? Oh, mate, the stress, like I feel like I'm reliving it right now, of like those decisions. But fortunately, like we rowed real hard. We smelt the land, we saw the lights, we saw the land, and we got to the bay. And it was just like the feeling of that, like I thought it would be like elation and excitement, but it was just relief at that point.
Yeah. Was there any moment then where you had to go without your wet wipes? Or did you make it across with enough rations?
No, we made it across with enough rations. I ran out of snack packs before as well, because when I was seasick, there were things in my snack pack that I could stomach that I couldn't of the like main meals.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the lads did a few trades with me because some of the meals were better than others. The basil pesto was really nice. The Mexican chili was nice. And the guys really liked the chipotle one. And I had tons of them knocking around. But they'd kind of eaten some more of those and had like some of the crappy meals left that weren't so flavoursome. But they'd been much stricter on their snack packs and they had a bunch left over. So I was like, a few days out, we did a few trades so that I could have some snacks as we got closer to the end. But that was...
And something I hadn't really considered myself was, like you're saying, like, you got to use the toilet.
Yeah.
You're on a boat, like...
Yeah.
What's the deal?
Yeah, mate, it's a bucket over the side. So we had like wide lid water bottles that we would use for a number one, and basically you do your business in the bottle, spill it into the sea, give it a wash, and then just clip it back on for whoever needs it next. The reason you need to kind of do it like that is there's really no space on this boat, and two people are rowing at any one time, and you would, if you wanted to just wee directly into the ocean, one, you could, like, the swell is tipping you side to side. We don't want to be dealing with if you accidentally fall in, like, it's going to be stressful, you're going to be wet, you're going to have to deal with the clothes, it's dangerous, like, there's just so many reasons not to do it. So yeah, you piss in a bottle and you swill it over the side. The number two, there's a bucket at the back, and you get a bit of seawater in it, you sit on it, you do your business. And that was probably one of the nicest treats of the day when it was a nice day. When you needed to go for a number two and it was wild waves and horrible weather, mate, that is just one of the worst things I've had to do, to try to balance yourself. And like when you're sat on there with no toilet seat, uncomfortable, and a wave comes and just smashes you, and you're just like, oh great, thanks very much. And it's freezing cold and you're getting rained on, like, oh my god, it's horrible. But yeah, then you do your business and you spill it back into the ocean and a fish eats it or whatever.
And then again, another thing I didn't really think about is you're stuck in close quarters with 3 other people
Yeah.
for 2 months.
Yeah.
You don't get to see anyone else. You don't really get to talk to anyone else. I can't imagine there's much like Wi-Fi out there.
Yeah, no, we didn't have Starlink or anything like that. So the way that we would connect is the guys had some Garmin sat phones, so they would be able to send some messages via satellite. They were very, very slow to send. And when I mean like slow to send, like a message that might be I think like 50 characters or whatever might take 15 minutes to send. So if you're trying to send a little bit of an update about what's happening today, that might take an hour for it to actually send and receive. And we had this, it was called a BGAN. I don't actually know what BGAN stands for, but we could just call it the BGAN. But basically that is a dish that you, when you turn it on, you can point it to find a satellite and you can connect your phone to it, and then you can send some stuff, and it's more powerful, but it's really energy intensive and knackering, because we would send back some videos or send back some voice notes or whatever, but I'd do it typically every 3 days or something like that. But it meant that, you know, when I was describing, like, you've got 2 hours in your break, and when you come off, it's going to take you 10 minutes to take your clothes off, maybe you got to eat or whatever, and then I got to get this device out, poke my head out the top cabin, point it at a satellite, and then stand there for 20-25 minutes whilst it sends and receives a few messages, and then I get to go and lie down and get and row again. Like, you just don't want to do it that often. So yeah, you're stuck with your crew and teammates, and yeah, man, like, it's tough.
Was there any like dicey moments between the crew?
Yeah, between all of us, there was like, apart from probably Ingo, like Ingo's, yeah, like quite quiet. Some of the times I would have conversations with him, and he would just like talk and talk and talk. He's got tons of stories, but in terms of his like demeanor, he's just not got the time to fall out with anyone. I would just think he'll never fall out with anyone. I can't imagine him getting angry. Taff and Mace bickered like brothers, like they're good friends, and so yeah, they would bicker like bros. Me and Taff sharing a cabin, we had our moments where we were like at each other, and then me and Mace had our moments too where we would just get like frustrated with each other, but like that's like the nature of it. Like some of the times we would get frustrated with each other, and you just like, I don't know, you don't really mention it. Do you know what I mean? You just let it pass. And then other times there were things that had just kind of like, maybe there'd been some repetition of what's going on, and it's always just like tiny stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not what you said, it's how you said it, sort of thing, you know what I mean? And we would then just address something, and we'd just be like, okay, yeah, cool, I didn't mean it like that, done.
Yeah.
You have to like address stuff, and we ultimately, like, when there are times that you're not getting on or whatever it is, you still got to recognize that you're a team, and like, I need you and you need me to get to the end of this. So we can't fall out past a certain point. It's fine to like have a go at each other, tell each other to lay off, tell each other to shut up, tell each other to give it a rest, or whatever it is you need to do. But then, yeah, ultimately, you know, you got to come to this conclusion of like, we're not in this situation where, you know, you're at the pub and you can just be like, I don't like that person, I'm never speaking to them again. It's not the case. Like, you're there with them every day, you know?
I can imagine like even the smallest things become really tiresome when you're 71 days together and you haven't eaten properly, you haven't slept, you're just physically exhausted. Like, smallest things would just really piss you off.
Yeah, like an example of that. It's like me and Taff had a little, it wasn't a big one, but there was a little something over a little bit of peanut butter on the side. And I obviously I see it from both sides now. It's like outside, but it's only little. You know, I'd gotten onto my shift, and then Taff was like, "Tox, there was some peanut butter on the side," and I was like, "All right," and he was like, "I've just wiped it up," and I was like, "Okay, cool, nice one," and it was just like, "Why are you giving me like if I don't even know if that was me. I obviously didn't see it if it was me, and I'm just there, and then obviously he closed the cabin door, and then it's just 2 hours I'm just festering in my head, just being like, I clean up stuff after you all the fucking time, like, you know what I mean? I don't mention it, and like, why do you need to mention it? We're here to like get each other. Obviously if I'd have seen it I would have wiped it up, but I just didn't see it. Like, why are you making out like I'm like leaving a mess and I'm just going through and then he comes out, and I was just I can't remember what was actually said, but I said something else to him, and then there was a little bit of like, we were arsey with each other, and then on the next one I came out and I was like, sorry mate, and he was just like, were you snapping at me on that? I was like, yeah, I was pissed. And he was like, oh boy, I wasn't sure, because I was like, maybe I'm getting pissed about something and I'm reading it wrong. And we were just like, we did then like laugh about it, but it's just the littlest things of like, someone could just say something and you're like, yeah, and what, like, what about you? Just for like the tiniest little things.
Yeah, no, it's something that you don't really comprehend, and something like you must really appreciate, like, now that it's over, being like, I really take for granted like that was nothing.
Oh, totally.
And like, there's way bigger problems now, but when you're stuck on that boat, it's like, that's your world.
Yeah. Boiling water, for example, like, it's when you're in a tiny confined cabin and it's raining and you're getting smashed by waves and you're constantly rowing and you're aching and just like, oh my god. And then like, I'm putting on my wet clothes do you know what I mean? It's not like I've even got room to stand up and just put clothes on. So putting clothes on is a nightmare. Like, getting these salopettes on when it's wet, I'm like putting them on, and then, you know, 6 minutes before I've got to be rowing, Taff's like, Tox, will you put a boil on for me? I'm like, oh, fucking great. I've got to get water out of the bucket that's on deck and put it in this stupid little jet boil thing and put it on for you now, have I? Like, I've done it the last 5 times. When are you going to do it? You know what I mean? That's what goes through your head. And then you're just like, just boiling some water. It's okay. I'm helping out my teammate. Yeah. And like, maybe I have done the last 5, maybe I've done the last 6, but that's like 2 days of boiling water, and we're going to do this for 71 days. I'm sure it'll balance out somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. On the flip side of it as well, though, like, although these things seem trivial, and like, now looking back, it's like, why were we getting so annoyed about that? Have you found more of a appreciation for like daily life and like the stresses you go through, like being like, that was my world for 71 days, like that was hard, just surviving that, and then coming back to land and being like, everything is so chill now. Yeah,
I would say that it is, and you do have like an appreciation for the simplest things, like a kettle and a toilet seat and stuff like that, and just like a hot shower. So yeah, like I do think that there's a big appreciation for those types of things, and even just stuff like, I don't know, as I try and get back into work and the normal world, you know, stuff that might have been a slog for me, you know, a meeting in London where I've got to get a late train home and be tired and stuff, and I just go like, I've been more tired than this, and it's still a bummer, but like really this is nothing. And actually one night, like almost immediately afterwards, I got the plane from Kenya to, God, I'm really gonna butcher it, Abasabada. Where is Addis Abba in Addis Abba, which is the airport for it's another African country, and that is terrible. But on the changeover flight, I'm beard like out to here, hair like all over the place, transplant looking terrible, and I look homeless on this plane. And then I'm sat next to two people, and we get an announcement when we're in the seats that just says this, you know, your flight's been delayed 20 minutes. A person next to me is going like, oh God, yeah, they always do this, flights and da 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 da. And I was like, I do not give a fuck about a 20-minute delay at this point. I am so pleased to be chilling in this seat. Like, you have no idea. I'm the wrong person to be looking at to complain about waiting 20 minutes right now. So yeah, you do have this like appreciation of like, do you know what? There's a problem. Someone else is sorting it out. That's not mine to deal with. I just get to sit in this seat whilst other people figure out what needs to be done and still get me to where I need to go. Yeah. No effort on my part. No problem.
Oh, no, I've never done something that big that's made me like look back and be like, wow, like daily life is just easy at this point. Like I was saying when I was doing my 6, I'm like, I'm being brought food, everyone's looking after me, I've always got people with me, class, like best week ever. I just get to run and eat what I want. I've never been in a position where I get back and I'm like, fucking hell, like what did I just do? Like how did I survive that? I've been living off ration packs. Like what was the first meal you had when you were on land?
Steak and eggs. Mate, and it was banging. Like the guy that brought over steak, eggs and a beer, what a hero at this boatyard. So that was really nice. But one of the things that you mentioned there is definitely one of the lessons that I learned throughout this whole period, because when you do something like that, like you can't do it on your own. Like you need help from people, and it really is nice. So when you're talking about doing your 6, like people coming and bringing you food, people helping you out, like one, it makes you just feel really special that people are helping you, and you feel lucky to have people that will go out of their way to do stuff that isn't even for a goal of their own. Like they'll come and help you. Like that's a really nice thing, and I feel really blessed to have had so much help throughout the whole process of like fundraising, friends that would like donate money, friends that would like make introductions for me, friends like you that would give me a platform to talk about what it is I wanted to do, friends that would like help me find out like things of like kit, or friends that would help me afterwards when I was in Kenya and I didn't have a visa and I needed to get home. Like the amount of people that helped was like really heartwarming and eye-opening. People that I knew well and people that like I've never met before would just help. So that gave me like a real faith in humanity, and that people I think are more fundamentally good than bad, and people do want to see you do well. The other side to that is I think it's really difficult to accept help from people in a small way, where if 2 people go for dinner, there's this whole like, oh no, I'll get the bill and da, 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 da. And you know what, like sometimes you don't want to feel like you're taking from someone, but in a backwards way, sometimes I know it feels nice to buy someone dinner or to give someone a gift. I'm gonna cough. I know it feels nice to buy someone dinner or give someone a gift, and like sometimes you just gotta like accept something gracefully and say thank you, instead of with the British way is like, you hold a door open for someone and they'll say, oh sorry, like just say thank you. That would have been nice enough. And so on the one hand, when you go and do something which you can't achieve by yourself, it gives other people the opportunity to help, and people really do relish the opportunity. And then it gives you the opportunity to like accept it and really like appreciate your friends and random people who will come and help you out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned through the process.
This is something I've actually been trying to work on myself, because I suck at it. For me, when people help me, it's not just that fact of like receiving the help. I then feel like a burden. That's like a big thing I'm trying to work on. So even just taking a compliment, like when someone says something nice about me, I'm like, don't think that, like, don't agree with you. And I've really struggled like letting them know that I disagree with them. Like I'm always like, yeah, no, like you shouldn't be complimenting me, like please don't. So now I'm trying to learn to just be like, thank you, I really appreciate that, like that's made me feel this way, and like just getting that across. And then it's not just like, oh thanks, and if like most people just like throw away comment of like, oh thanks, yeah
mate, that's exactly it.
Like, it's like it makes it awkward then, doesn't it?
If I compliment someone, I guess like the reason I've complimented them is because I think they deserve it, and I want them to feel good about whatever it is that they've just done, or and if they then self-deprecate themselves or like throw it away, you're just kind of like, okay, well, I won't compliment that person again. You know what I mean? It's not how, but I know that's not how that person wants to react to it. You go, your hair looks nice, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, well it's windy today, so we'll see how long it lasts. And you're just like, oh, okay.
There's just such a tendency towards negativity, I find, these days. Like you're saying, like even if they're like, yeah, it does look nice, but how long is it gonna last? Like it's like, well,
I do think it's a British thing. I don't really know. I think Americans are better at like hyping each other up. I think in England it is what's it called, like the tall daisy syndrome or something. Like if you're the tallest flower, you're going to get chopped, sort of thing. So you just like stay on the same level as everyone else, type mentality. Because I've had it before, like in training for these things, it just becomes like I go to work on a Monday, and as I got closer to doing a marathon or an ultra marathon or something, like my weekend was running. And I was quite pleased with the distance that I was running, and I trained really hard for it. But you go like round everyone, oh, how was your weekend? Oh yeah, went to the pub and did this and blah blah blah. Got smashed. I went to this event. All right, cool. And then what did I do? Like I went and ran 30k, and everyone goes, oh, here he is. And you're just like, well, I mean, you asked. Like I'm not gonna lie about it. Like you could just be like, oh, nice one. Well done.
See, for me, like this is actually a really great example, really good timing. Sunday just gone, I couldn't sleep, so I just got up and I ran an ultra marathon for fun. So I just got up, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna went and did 50k. For me, that's like training now, because I'm training for 300 miles in a week, and I'm just like in my head, I'm like, right, I've got this time available to me. I was meant to be working, I'm not working now, I can't sleep. How can I best use my time? Go for a long run, like I've got the time, just do it. And I get out, and then when I go into work, and like I've posted about it on Instagram, I haven't made a big deal of it. I'm just using it to promote my running courses that I'm starting up. And I was like, oh, this is great, because like I remember a run like that used to break me and I wouldn't be able to walk for a month, and now it's a training run. And I was like, this just shows like how following a structured plan can help people. And I was like, I want to shout about this a bit. So I posted it, and then going into work, and I'm doing a class, and everyone's like, oh, we'll run an ultra on the weekend. And I'm like, yeah, great. And like some people are like, they're doing it in like a nice way. They're like, oh, you're just a superhuman, and like trying to compliment me. And I'm like, I'm not. And like the point is that I'm not.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to feel like you can't ever do things like this, because you're like, oh, Will's just special. And it's like, that's part of it for me, is like, I don't want to accept those compliments, because I'm like, you're putting a barrier between what's achievable for me and you.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a part of it for me. But then I think the other side of it is when people like give compliments these days, they're not always genuine. And I think that makes it hard when you do get a genuine compliment to accept it, because you're like, I don't really know their motives behind giving me this compliment. Like, what do they want?
Yeah, fair.
So they're like the two reasons why I think I struggle with compliments. But I think people just need to be more genuine. Like, if someone's like had a haircut and you think it's shit, don't be like, oh, nice haircut, mate.
Yeah.
Like, just don't say anything.
And it's there's so many things. Like, number one, I think it's, if you can be a friend, it's rare to have friends that you can share your problems with, but I think it's rarer that you can have friends that you can share your successes with. Like, be the friend that when you go and do, oh mate, I couldn't sleep last night, so I ran an ultra. How mad is that? Because that used to like break me, and now it's just a training run. Be the friend that goes, I love that for you. That is class. Like, I remember the time that you did that thing and you were in tears and you fractured your foot. Like, how mad is it that you're doing that? You know what I mean? Hype them up. Because I think those people are rare that you can actually call and just brag about yourself a little bit. Because like, we're all doing these things to feel good about ourselves, right? And like, what's the point if you can't share it with someone who actually like is hyping you up for it? And I just lost my train of thought for like the second thing. Remind me what you said just before.
So it's about like people putting that barrier between, like, they're putting a label on you and being like, oh, you're just incredible, like you can just do these things.
Yeah.
Because I think that is like a big thing. And like all the things I do, I want it to inspire others, like, as I'm sure you do. I don't want, like, I can't imagine you're there being like, oh, I rode across the Indian Ocean and I want everyone to like look up to me and be like, wow, that is so impossible, like only he could do it. Like, you surely want other people to look at that and be like, wow, what can I do?
Yeah, totally.
And it's
that like Roger Bannister effect of no one run the 4-minute mile, and then people see that it can be done, and then like everyone goes and does it, and now if you can't run a 4-minute mile, you're not in the Olympics. You know what I mean? You're not an athlete anymore, because it's just like the done thing. So yeah, there are definitely like, and the way that I see it is there are thresholds, and there are like throughout all aspects of your life, like friendships, finances, but certainly physical is one of the things that you can see visibly, and you can experience them in a way that is like so measurable, where when you talk about running a distance, the first time I ran a half marathon, I was knackered afterwards. And fast forward a year, I was running a half marathon every Monday after work, fasted, and I was just like, that's just what I do now. You know what I mean? And you get to those levels and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I remember when I like built myself up and I like didn't sleep the night before I did a half marathon, because I was like, oh God, I hope I do it. I hope I don't stop, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's like you say, it's the training run that you don't think about, that you're just like, oh wow. And you're trying to share that message with people, because I'm also impressed with myself that like I've gotten to that point that I can run a half marathon faster than I could when I was trying to peak on the day, and I can do it every week after work, wind, rain or shine.
Yeah.
And I don't even eat food beforehand. I don't bring water with me. It's like, oh, that's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And other people can do that too. Like, your body is just so versatile and capable if you push it to the point.
Yeah. I think this is like a really good point, because it's amazing not just how quickly that your body can adapt to these things, but about how people's perception of you can change in that same amount of time. Because like we've both said, in the past 2 years, where we was compared to where we are now physically is like worlds apart.
Yeah.
I've gone from breaking myself doing half marathon a day to then doing an ultra day in those 2 years, and coming off the back of it I've actually come off the back of my 6 ultras better than I did the 496, which is mental. Crazy. To me. And like, you've gone from never having actually rowed a boat.
Yeah.
That's what I found funny. Like, you'd never rowed a boat, you're like, I'm going to row across an ocean. And to now having rowed across an ocean, like, you must have the same as me, where people just look at you and they're just like, yeah, but that's just what you do.
Yeah.
And it's like you're probably a better example, because I was doing things like this for like a few years before, and like I've had experiences like this, and I've like been in the fire service, but like you've come from like half marathon,
Working at a desk,
yeah,
running a 10k, and then just like doing everything.
and you've just like completely flipped the script and just been like, I've rowed across an ocean now. But people will just see you as, oh, you're the guy that rowed the ocean, and like that's just what you do, and they still can't get over how they could do that. So like, how would you advise someone that has got like that little niggle, like you were saying, in the back of your head of like, oh, it would be cool if I could do this one day, to actually being like, I'm gonna go and do it?
Yeah.
Because that's quite a journey.
What's my favorite Jim Rohn quote is, you can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. And it's not about getting something, it's about becoming it first. And that phenomenon that you're talking about is exactly what happened, and it happened in a weird way for me because I did those challenges in an order and they got bigger. I also had to move, and I had to move home to Dorset with my mum for financial reasons, because the row was costing me a lot of money, and I was like determined to do it. So I was living out here in Wales in Bridgend, and then I moved to Dorset, and I made a whole group of new friends. And so my friends that know me from school and know me from working in London know me as the guy who just like is, you know what I mean, I train, I go to the gym, whatever, but like I just do the same as everyone else, and I drink and I work behind a desk. When I got to Dorset, I'd already run a marathon on ice. I was imminently doing the Matterhorn, so I was like, I moved there, and then, you know, it was the thing of like, as I was meeting people, in 2 weeks' time I was going to Switzerland to do the Matterhorn, and then I'd done it, and then I come back and, you know, I'd talked about running the marathon on ice, and then in 6 months after that I was going to row across the ocean, and I was getting to the point where I was pretty sure I was going to do it because I had all the money in place, I had the team in place, we had our plans, and all this different stuff. And yeah, they were just like, it was the point where people would introduce me and go, oh, you're the guy that's going to row the ocean. And I was like, yeah, right, I am. But like, also like, I feel like it's crazy that, you know, I've done all this training and stuff. If I talk to someone that I used to work with, people would be like, oh my God, like that's crazy. How are you going to do that? But this group of people don't see how, they just see me as the guy that would do it. They have no doubts in me. And I was kind of feeding off that as well, where I was like, this is quite cool. These people aren't questioning whether I do it or not, because they are like, I don't know, they see how hard I train, and they see that I'm not really drinking, and they see that I've gone out and I'll do mountains and I'll do this other stuff, and they're just like, there's no question in their mind that I'm an adventurer. I was like, yeah. So I must be an adventurer. And it's about identity, you know, to be able to like run a marathon, you just need to change your identity to being a runner. And the biggest thing in most people's minds is they will say, I'm not much of a runner, but I'm gonna try. And somewhere along the lines you have to change it. Most of the time it's people are just scared about what other people think of them, because like, oh, you know, if I'm overweight and I've never run anything in my life, let alone like a marathon, maybe they've never done 5k, like, how am I going to convince anyone? Like, I feel stupid saying I'm going to do a marathon because I know people are going to look at me and think like, nah, no, you're not. You know what I mean? That's what goes through people's heads. But you convince yourself and other people through like building up little bits of evidence that, yeah, do you know what? Maybe I'm 41 kilometers away from completing a marathon, but today I did one. And through consistency, you will build up that identity for yourself, and other people will start to see you doing it and go like, oh my God, yeah, nice one. You got to like 10k, 12k. And before you believe yourself, genuinely other people start to believe that you're going to do it. And it is quite an interesting phenomenon, because I can't really draw a line in the sand of where it goes from like people who are like, yeah, no, that's crazy, you're never going to do that, to just like, oh, he's the guy who's going to do it.
Yeah. I do find it fascinating. I think it's come at like a really good time for me with my coaching, because like I've got a lot of clients that are starting to like go through that,
Yeah.
So I got a lot of clients. I got one that I'm thinking of in particular. She's recently got into running. She's recently did her first 5K, then she did her first 10K. Now she's doing her first trail half marathon.
Epic.
And I'm like the people that she's with now through Adventure Athletes community are all like, yeah, this is amazing. Can't wait to see you do it. And she got invited out drinking with like the sort of people she used to hang out with. She was like, I'll come out, but I don't want to drink. And then she was like, actually, I don't really feel like coming out. Like, I know I've got to run this weekend, and I don't want to drink. Like, I'm just not feeling it. And she started getting called like boring, and they're like, oh, I can't believe you've changed and all of that. And it's like that change of like, it's not just you that's changing. You need to change the people around you. Like, she's now spending more time with Adventure Athletes, and I'm like, this is great because we're that positive influence. And she's like, I kind of don't want to hang out with them anymore because they're just making me feel shit for improving myself.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're fucking adults. Like, surely you'd just be happy for me, but people aren't. And like, you might not have had to go through it because you moved away, and then people just knew you for that.
Yeah,
It's not like you're going through that change with them.
Yeah, I feel like it's a mixture. I've definitely been out as well with friends where I was like, I'm not drinking, and they didn't let it go for the whole time, and you have to stay quite strong. But I do feel like lucky enough where I've got groups of friends that would just be like, okay, no stress. And so yeah, but people will feel it in terms of like jealousy of like, I wish I was doing that. I wish I had the balls to do that in my life. But it's hard, you know what I mean? Because like I know why people like to drink, because it is enjoyable, it's really relaxing, and it's good to have like a chat with your mates down the pub, and it's fun and all of those different things. And it kind of like, at the beginning especially, you don't get the euphoria and that positive feeling of achievement when you still kind of suck at the sport that you want to be good at.
Yeah.
That is the chunk that you have to get through, where like, if you want to be doing ultra runs, like, you've got to get to the point that you can do 15-20k, and like you're then kind of proud of yourself, and you then surround yourself with a community of adventure athletes who can do back-to-back ultras, and you're like, God, I'm like so far at the beginning. And this again is like one of the things where I've ended up in the communities of like other ocean rowers, and Matt Mason, who was the captain for our row, like, this was his 5th ocean, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking like, wow, people are like hyping me up for around this ocean, and this dude's done 4 already, and he's doing this one as the 5th, and he's the captain. And like, you know, there are tons of other people who've done, you know, whoever it was, I don't know the guy's name, but he did a triathlon in Antarctica. And then there was the guy who did the world's longest triathlon, where he ran to like, what was it, Dover, swam across the channel, cycled to Everest, and then climbed Everest. And you're just like,
he was on the podcast a few weeks back.
No.
Yeah.
He actually was?
Craft, yeah.
No way, you had Mitch on?
Yeah.
No way. Oh my God, I've got to listen to that.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
it was
isn't
a
it?
very brief one, but he was in Cardiff doing a talk, and I was like, oh, do you want to come on the podcast?
What a legend.
The half hour he had. He was like, yeah, I'll come around for half hour, and then you can drop me at the train station. So I was like, cool. Get him on.
But you then mix in a different circle, and you realise you're a small fish.
Yeah.
Whereas like in somewhere before, the people around the pub who are like rinsing you for running 10k and caring about it, and you're like making out that like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But there are so many more people out there when you start breaking into the circle that you just go like, oh God, like, my stuff's just not impressive. And I have the same thing where you just go like, oh, you know, I'm really proud of doing the challenge. I'm glad that I got to the end and proved to myself that I'm not a nearly man. But then I all of a sudden just like humble myself, and I'm like, yeah, loads of people have done way more.
There are levels to this. Like, I use running because that's the road I've gone down recently, and it's like, oh yeah, I did 6 ultras in 6 days, and then I'm like, Russ Cook ran across Africa. He's doing an ultra a day for a year. Like,
crazy.
And it's just like, there are real levels to this. But then people don't see that, especially for me, because I work in a gym and I coach people. So like, my life is based around fitness, and then it's a commercial gym. So like, I'm sort of out there when it comes to these people. They're coming to like a fitness class a few times a week, and they're like, Jesus Christ, like you were like unstoppable. And I'm like, I'm just getting started. Like there's so many more people out there doing even more mental stuff than me. I think that's a part of like that whole compliment thing that we was on about as well. Is like you're comparing yourself to the other people in your circles.
Yeah.
So like for me to accept a compliment, I'm like, oh yeah, but like so and so, like my mate just come 10th in Ironman Wales, and then my other mates like towed a drum kit 100 miles, and then I've had Mitch on and he's did the triathlon to Everest, and like now you're here, and I'm like, you've rode across an ocean. I'm like, what's six ultras? Like it's like nothing.
Oh no, I've only done 6 ultras back to that.
I'm like, yeah, like, but for me, like some people are like, they'll see that and be disheartened. They're like, there's people doing so much more, like why am I even trying? But for me, I'm like, shit, how do I get there? I want to be there. I'm here now. Like, how do I get to row across an ocean? Like, what does that take? And it fascinates me.
I'm not sure if you saw, like, quite recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, somebody broke the record for the fastest 100k ultra, because it was under, what did he get it in?
They were aiming for under 6 hours, I think.
Yeah, I think he got it.
I think it was like 6:01 or something. He was like a couple of minutes off.
No, I think that because there was a guy talking about it who previously he got 6:01, but someone had broken it. But that guy who got the 6:01, I can't remember if he was like Russian or but like somewhere around that area. He didn't start running until he was 34. Like, he was a drinker, a non-runner, whatever it is, and he didn't start until he was 34, and something like 10 years later he's smashing these times. And it just makes you, it is inspirational, because you start to think, like, I don't know, when you watch things like the Olympics or whatever, like a lot of the sports, you know, it's kids that are like 18 to 24, isn't it? Just like, whilst their bodies are just like absolutely ripping it in their prime for these like hard sports. But when you get into like the endurance space, like what people are capable of doing well into their 40s and 50s, like, all right, maybe you don't have people like setting and breaking records into their 50s. Well, there probably are somewhere, but I'm not as aware of them. But like, you can still, the distances that people can cover are still way out of anyone's like sphere of what they think is possible. In your 20s, people will be like, oh, you know what I mean, I'll never run 100k ultra, and then there'll be someone that's like 55 who started 5 years ago who's running it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it does blow my mind, like you're saying, like the older guys that get into it as well, and it's just like, where have they got that switch from? Because like for me, like I've always liked fitness, and for me it's been that progression, like you've said, like you did the marathon, then the Matterhorn, then the row, and they just like, they're just one day they're just like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing. Yeah. And it's just, full respect for them. I don't know what I'll be doing at that age. It'll either be like way over the top, or I'll just be like, no, I'm happy now, I can live with this. With your thing then, like I see your journey as like, it links very closely with what I've been doing with adventure athletes. Like when I started this, I set my 12 labours, didn't I? So I was like, I'm going to do 12 things over 12 years. And I remember writing them down. I've been thinking about this recently, because I'm thinking, well, what's next year's labour? And I was like, I remember writing them. And every time I've done one, I've had to revisit the list and rewrite the others, because I'm now at the point, like you were saying, you look back at the marathon on ice and you're like, that wasn't a challenge. That was easy, really. Like, it's just a marathon, but it's just a bit cold. Just
a bit picturesque, like quite fun. I would highly recommend it to anyone.
So I look back on like my ones, like my first one, I did a 50-mile barefoot walk, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that was like a nice day. That was one day. And then I was like, oh, I did the Welsh 3000s, and now I'm like, that would just be a training run for me, because that's like less than a marathon distance, and it's just in the mountains, and I hadn't really done many mountains before that, but now I've done loads. I can imagine going back and being like, this is actually just, again, it's a nice day out, like it's really nice views, I'm in North Wales, like it's amazing, and it just like escalates then to like doing 6 ultras in 6 days, and next year I'm doing 300 miles in a week. And
Mad.
for you, it was like, yeah, the marathon, Matterhorn, the row. What comes next? When does it stop?
I do think you get like a bug for it, because you get a kick out of the sense of achievement for what you've done. And I think what the question you asked me at first was like, what were one of your drivers? Well, I kind of felt like the biggest thing I'd ever done in my life was overcome the fear of boxing. And that was when I did that when I was like 15, and I boxed till I was 18. And then sitting here now, I'm 30, and I was like, well, imagine like the thing I was most proud of was still 12 to 15 years ago, and I'd like never done anything. And the same will apply in 15 years time. Like I'm really buzzing I rode across the ocean, but I don't just want to sit on that in 30 years. That be the only thing I've ever done. So for me, like, mountains is definitely something that I enjoyed, but I think that like these kind of extreme natural environments are so fun to explore, and I don't have any like specific plans yet. I know I will go back to the Alps and I will do more 4,000 meter peaks, because there's 82 of them in the Alps, and there are a bunch of them that look really fun to climb. The Matterhorn being one of them that I've just got to finish, so I can tick that one off for myself. But I want to possibly explore some caves, because I've just learnt more that, as well as climbing up, I think it's pretty crazy that you can climb down, and people do expeditions for a week and more, climbing just further and further into the darkness and into the earth. And I think it sounds terrifying, and I just think it would be an experience that like really few people will have done, or will have the balls to go and do. So that kind of excites me, and I'd love to do a little bit more in the water. Maybe this not even like a challenge, right? But I'd like to get my skydive license, and I'd like to get my scuba dive paddy and do some diving. But it just is giving me I have the fire where I want to experience more of these like natural environments, because just throughout the process you learn to deal with different stresses, but it's just seeing things with the naked eye. I listened to, I can't remember what astronaut it was, but he was talking about what it's like to see Earth from space. And he was on Joe Rogan, and Rogan was like, wow, was your mind blown? And he was like, well, not really, because, I wasn't the first to go up there. And at a certain point, I'd seen images of Earth from space enough that when I got there, it looked exactly how I was expecting. So my mind wasn't like blown. And I think that there's just maybe that like an attitude for people where, you see a reel and you see what a volcano looks like or what a mountain looks like, and you just like, okay, I've seen that now. Like, how different can it be? But my experience is when I see the mountains in person, and when I've seen the waves in person, like, I am amazed by it. And I don't think you can beat the experience of just like actually being there in that sensory environment. And so I want to be up in the sky, I want to be under the water, I want to be in the caves, I want to be in the mountains, and just like see it and feel it.
Yeah, I still get amazed. Like, I'll go for a run up Snowdon. I've been up Snowdon so many times now. I still like, there's a bit, if you go up the Lamberis path, it's like you get like a bit of a view most of the way, then you go under like this tunnel bit and it just opens out. I get amazed every time I do it. I've done it so many times. I'm still amazed every time I see that view, no matter what. And like, it's the same, I go up Penavan. I've done Penavan like hundreds of times now.
Yeah.
And I always look across and it takes me back to my 50-mile barefoot walk, because that's where I finished.
Nice.
And I look across and I can see the first mountain that I had to go over, and I always look and I'm like, I did all of that.
That's crazy, isn't
and
it?
it's, yeah, I never stop getting blown away by nature, and I've spent a lot of time out there.
The one thing I will say is I won't row an ocean again. Like, the ocean is beautiful and it's pretty amazing, but when you just see the horizon all day, every day, and it doesn't get any closer, I think I've seen enough of that beauty. Like, it just, oh my God, I felt sick by the end of it. The night sky was insane. Some of the nights where we had like no moon and no clouds, the disk of the Milky Way was just so mad to look at. Like, I was rowing, trying to pay attention to my rowing, but my neck was like this, like, just craned backwards, just staring up at the sky. And some of the things that like surprised me, one of them was the amount of shooting stars. Like, shooting stars are not rare at all. Like, initially,
really?
mate, initially I was like, oh my God, did you see that shooting star? And then, oh my God, another one and another one. I was like, oh, there must have been a meteor shower tonight. Next night, tons of shooting stars. Next night, tons of shooting stars. Like, where we are with the light pollution, you just don't see it. But like when we were out on the Indian Ocean, either we had genuinely a meteor shower for like 20 days and I didn't know, I just wasn't aware of it, or like it's just how the night sky is. There are tons of them when you are out there. Like, I'd maybe see like between 8 and 12 on a 4-hour shift, from big ones that would shoot across the sky to little ones that would just kind of dart a bit and you'd be like, oh, did you catch that? The other thing was the amount that the sky, I know the sky doesn't turn, the earth spins, but because we were like pointing west, and when we were rowing we would continue rowing west, so like we wouldn't change our position on the earth. And of course, like, as the earth turns, it just blew my mind how much in a 4-hour period I would have this like stripe of stars, which would be the disk of the Milky Way, that would go from like in front of me all the way over my head to like behind me. And I would notice certain constellations, like the Big Dipper would be over my left shoulder over here. Scorpio was up above me over there. 4 hours later, when it was the end of my shift and I'd kind of look up at the sky, it had all turned and like so far. And I was like, that was like, what? How has it moved that far? And then you go like, oh yeah, I'm like, we're spinning. But like, it's just real realization that we're spinning a lot.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much it moves. I think that as we walk around like town, and if you see the stars, because you're changing perspective as you walk and turn, you kind of don't notice the stars move so much. But like when I was on that boat, like I noticed them move a lot. It was crazy.
Yeah, it becomes like the sun then, doesn't it? Because you all notice like the sun moving, like, oh, it's there, and then it goes over, but you just don't think of it with the everything else in the sky.
Yeah.
You're like the sun and the moon, yeah, but yeah, everything else is just like, wow, that's moved. Like,
yeah, and it moves a lot. One of the best days for me was like swimming in the ocean as well, where it was 6,000 meters deep. Like, how much?
That sounds terrifying.
Mate, there is so much water out there. I can't tell you how it's just like to know. Like, I know how it feels to run 6,000 meters. That's how deep it is. Like, down below me, that distance, and it's all water, and I can see to the horizon over there and over there and over there and over there. There is so much water. I can't believe it.
You got to think as well, like doing the Matterhorn, that's what, 4,500.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is deeper than the height I was on the Matterhorn.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was a couple of days where we jumped in and had a little swim around, and you are just thinking like, what is beneath me? Because like, I've obviously checked before, like you get great whites, you get tiger sharks, you get orcas, you get whales, you get all of these things in the Indian Ocean, and you're just thinking like, how quick are they? Like, where would they sense me from? Like, how would I notice them before they notice me and have time to get on the boat? So that was a thing. Like beforehand, I was like, I really want to conquer that fear of like being in the open ocean. I don't know if I can say I conquered the fear, because I would still be scared of swimming in the ocean, but like I did it nevertheless, and like had a good paddle around. It wasn't like a dip in and jump back onto the boat. Like I actually swam around for a bit of time, and like one of the weirdest sensations was the water was so clear that on that sunny day where we looked down, with my goggles on, looked down into the water, and it gave me almost like vertigo, because it was so clear and so deep. I felt like I could like fall into it, but obviously like I'm buoyant, I'm like floating on the top, but there was a part of me that just got that tummy flip of like, I felt like I was looking over the edge of a cliff into just this depth of water, of just blue, that there eventually goes black, and you're just like, oh my god, what is down there?
Yeah. Didn't you capsize as well at one point?
Yeah, that was definitely the worst and most scary thing that happened. And I gotta say, like, before that, we nearly capsized twice when I was on deck. The first time, Mace and I were out, and the wave had come behind us. So I was looking directly at the wave coming towards us, and fortunately it was pushing us in the right direction, but like this huge, like 4-meter swell. We were in big waves anyway. This wasn't like one wave in anything, but the way that it built up, and it had like a bit of a lip on it, like a sharper edge, and it just smashed our boat. And where I was saying we were doing like 2.5 knots, we were now doing 12 knots surfing down the front of this wave, and another wave hit it from the side at the same time, and it smashed us. And we were like, lean. So we both drop our oars. We're grabbing the side of the boat. The boat's tipping up at like 90 degrees. And I'm thinking, we're about to get in the drink here. And it corrects itself, and we start wobbling. And we were like, oh, is everybody okay? And like, we kind of gather ourselves for a couple of minutes. And we were like, wow, that was close to like being in the water and like being a real issue. But that one kind of went past. And May said that was the closest he'd been to capsizing. And that was in the daytime. Around day 54, we were rowing in the night, and I can't remember what we were chatting about, Battle of Hastings or something this time. So we're rowing along, and we see a wave coming from the right-hand side, so coming from the south. And it's when it hits you on the side that it's dangerous. And this one just came at the right angle and was big enough that it smashed us. The water just drenched us. We dropped our oars and we're holding onto the side again. The boat settles, no one says anything. We pick up the oars and we just start rowing again. And a couple of minutes later, after finishing our conversation about Battle of Hastings, I was like, how mental is it that on day 12 or whatever, we nearly got capsized like that? And everyone was like, are you okay? Like, oh my God, like, how did that feel? Oh my God, that was the closest I've been. And we were all like flustered. We just took a massive wave and we just didn't talk. And then we just carried on. That's the kind of mood that we're in. And then on day 60, we had some bad weather. We retired to the cabins, so we had like 8 hours or so sleep. And mate, I'm telling you, we just went from zero, lying there, to just like being hit by a truck. And I was lying on my back, and all of a sudden I went smash, and I would hit the side of the boat, and I was rolling, doing somersaults, and like the power of it was crazy. Like being in this little capsule, just getting thrown around by the water, knowing I'm thousands of kilometers from land, like no one can help you. And I just thought, like, this is it. This is where it ends. But, you know, it probably only lasted like 4 or 5 seconds in the wave, but it felt like a lot longer. And then the boat corrected itself. I look at Taff, he looks at me, we're going, are you all right? I'm all right, you're all right. Well, I was bleeding a little bit from the eye. All our stuff was everywhere. It was drenched. And then I start shouting out to the other guys, and I was getting my harness on to run out onto the boat and like start helping them, wondering when the next wave was going to come and hit us. They open their cabin. Ingo's got blood all over his face because the gimbal, so where we have that jet boil that boils our water, we have a gimbal there so that as the boat rocks, it stays vertical and doesn't spill. That he'd hit his face on it, and so he had slashes around his eyebrow and on his cheek and on his nose, and so he was bleeding. So he was like sorting that out, and then Mace and Taff and I like got to sorting the boat out and got the power anchor out, and then we kind of relaxed for a little bit of time. The power anchor is like a parachute that goes under the water, that the way that the current is pushing, it will point your boat into the waves, so the wave doesn't then hit you on the side. You kind of go over the wave, and even if it crashes on you, it's gonna be loud and scary and a bit shaky, but it's not gonna tip you sideways. So we did that, and it meant that we had a bit of time where we could like de-stress. And in that couple of hours, me and Taff were kind of laughing nervously But like, were you scared? Yeah, were you scared? Yeah, I was pretty fucking scared. And we were like, more waves were kind of hitting us, and it was so loud. And actually, up until that point, any waves that hit us, I was really calm. After that point, I really just, I felt claustrophobic, and I was like, I want to get off this boat. And I was like calculating in my mind little things like, you know, we're 1,000 kilometers from land. So if we needed help, how long would it take someone to get to us? Like at a few knots. A speedboat can go like 25, 30 knots maybe. So if you're 300 miles, it's going to take them 10, 15 hours. And we were like, I don't know, 600-700 miles away from land. So it's going to take someone like a day and a half to get to you if they're on a speedboat, and that's not the boat that's coming to help you. It's some chug along like tanker that's going 8 knots. So we're like 3-4 days from help if anything happens, and you just go like, well, we're screwed, aren't we? If something does happen. And as we got closer, because of that capsize, a lot of the kit started to fail, and one of the things that did fail was the rudder. So we have a rudder that is powered by a motor, which is attached to the GPS. So we can set a position 270 degrees, which is west. And then as the waves kind of throw us around, like the rudder will automatically move and keep us in the right direction. So we can just focus on rowing. That broke, and we then had to steer it manually, which was using 2 ropes. So where we had a person, 2 people rowing and 2 people effectively resting, we now had 2 people rowing and 1 person sat up on the top of the cabin with 2 ropes, like pulling their left arm if they wanted to go left and pulling the right arm if you want to go right, and trying to aim us towards Kenya. And so we went from having 2 hours on, 2 hours off to 3 hours on, 1 hour off for the last day. And that was like a crazy experience, because again, like, I'm like, we're so close and things are starting to break. Like, is something going to stop us? We had oars break. We lost an oar, so we were using spare oars. Our water maker broke, so the machine that desalinates the seawater for us to drink, that broke. Fortunately, Mace had a spare and he had to replace that, but the backup for that was a hand pump. So that would then mean, you know, you've got 2 people rowing, 1 person pumping water for us to drink, and 1 person steering, and no one would ever rest. So we were getting nervous about all of these different things. But as we got closer, one of the crazy things is that we got close enough to land that the first thing that happens is you smell it in the air. There's like this woody, earthy like aroma that just like hits you, and you're like, oh my God, like we're getting close. And then because of the cities in Kenya, like Mombasa, for example, night comes and you stop being able to see so many stars, and it looks like there's the glow for the moon about to rise, but it doesn't rise, and it's because it's the glow of the lights from the city. And so you smell land, you start to see the light from the land, and then eventually, as you're really close, maybe like 4 or 5 kilometers away, you start to see the land, and we're like, oh my God, we can see land, how good is that? But now is the like time for precision, because we have to hit this like estuary that we're going to go up and get to this boatyard. And again, like we were saying, we don't want to end up in like Kenya. We don't want to have to beach the boat on some rocks and then have to figure out how we get this 26-foot ocean rowing boat into a container somewhere. So yeah, like 1 person's using these ropes to like steer us, and then we're all like heaving on the oars to get us into this very specific place that we needed to be. And once we got into that estuary, we were like, we're not at the dock, but like we know we've done it, you know, because there's no currents in here there's no waves now. We are just on the flat water that's going to take us up to that boatyard, and we're done. We're like an hour away from doing it. And that was just like such a good feeling, especially for me, because Taff was demanding that he wanted to row to the finish. So I wasn't rowing at this point. I was like, do you want me to switch in? It's been a couple of hours. And he was like, nah, I really want to row to the finish. So I was like, suits me, bud.
Just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice. So do you have anything immediate now planned? Any challenges coming up? Anything that you're like, yeah, like this is what's next?
Biggest challenge is just like to get back to normal health. Like genuinely, like I went to go for a run and I struggled to run 3k. Was like one of the first things. My calves just didn't have the strength in them. Trying to do like push-ups is really difficult. I was climbing before and trying to like dead hang for like 30 seconds, really difficult. So getting my body up to just like baseline is a struggle at the moment. I'm hopefully going to run my first 10k in the next couple of weeks. So I'm like getting there on that. But yeah, next year I'm going to do one of the Maverick 100k trail runs, because one of the side quests I did was a 60k ultra, and I was quite pleased with finishing that. But I would like to get into triple figures, so I'll join you up there at some point next year, probably May, and it feels like a good goal to chase. I'd also like to do tenor van, but they're in the same month, so maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't.
You don't have to do the event for tenor van. It's a free mountain. Just rock up whenever you want. Climb it 10 times.
That's true, but maybe I want the medal. You do these things, I want to have some sort of recognition for it as well.
Yeah, fair. I didn't. When I did tenor van, I was happy doing it.
Yeah, that's nice. I rate that. That's good. So those couple of things probably, and then it's like I really just want to gain some skills in like ropes and mountain climbing and reading the weather, learning how to use my crampons properly. So there's an element where I need to get some technical skills so that I can go out to the Alps and take on some of the peaks that are out there, because as much as I have an understanding of like nature and my own ability, and I think like it's very possible, and it's by no stretch of the imagination is it difficult to go and do any of these peaks, you still can't underestimate nature. If you read the weather wrong, or if you are underprepared, or any of these things, if you don't have the skills for, you can be in a really dangerous place, and I just don't want to have the additional danger. I want to go out there and just like enjoy the challenge of me versus the mountain, rather than be underprepared and then get taken out by the weather.
Yeah. No, it's been great having you back on, sharing this. It's a big moment for me, because obviously 2 years ago you was like the first person that had come on that hadn't done a thing or didn't have any experience in a thing. Just, I'm gonna do that. Yeah. And you've gone and done it.
Mad, isn't it? I had intentions, and now I've got a world record, and it's a big one.
Yeah,
it was class.
Yeah, it was a first as well, wasn't it? So like,
yeah,
people can break world records, but they can't take away a first.
That's true.
So that is like solidified. Like you were the first, or on a team of the first people to ever do that.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know how many people have been to the moon now, but the first people that were.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, you're the first team across the Indian Ocean. The way you did it, like, yeah, it's amazing. Fair play. Like you said, we've come full circle now. So I'm excited. 2 years' time, where are you going to be? You're going to be back here telling me about some other adventure.
I hope so, mate. We'll share more stories.
Fingers crossed. Well, thank you for coming on.
I really appreciate it.
And yeah, I really appreciate the fact that you've stuck to saying that this is going to be the first podcast you'll do back. Like, that's meant a lot to me. So
followed through on it all.
Yeah, amazing.
You're a legend, and like, again, you're one of the people who, you didn't know me, and also there was no evidence to say that I was going to follow through on any of the stuff that I was going to do, but someone suggested that you were running this podcast and that maybe I could come on it and promote the stuff that I wanted to do. So like, it means a lot that you would take your time and effort and all of the resources that you have here to like listen to me talk about some dreams that I have before I've versus all of the cool people that you've had on the podcast that have done stuff. You took some time to like invest in me and make me feel like part of the crew. And now it feels
real
good.
Adventure that, athlete, mate.
Now I am.
That's the only way you can be described now. Like, you got to go around saying that that's going to be on your like Instagram and everything, like Adventure Athlete.
Yeah, do you know what? I will do that. That was a good shout.
It's the perfect term for what you do and what you've done. So yeah,
Hero.
part
Well,
of the
mate,
team.
until the next one.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much, Ro.
What a cracking episode that was. I absolutely loved catching up with Jake and hearing all about his adventures. And I can't believe that he's gone out and done what he said he was going to do. It's absolutely blown my mind being able to follow it in real time, and these past 2 years watching him grow and then seeing my own growth and having that chance to sit back and reflect on what I've done over the past 2 years has been amazing as well. We've both come a long way, it's fair to say. And I hope this gives you guys the chance to reflect on your past 2 years and what you've accomplished in that time, and maybe have a little bit of a think about some things that you want to go out and do, whether it's changing a job, whether it's setting a big challenge, whether it's just something that you've never done. Having a look at that and just being like, you know what, now's the time to go for it, because like we were saying in the episode, you never know when it's going to be too late. So get started now, guys. If you need any help with your goals, then Adventure Athletes has probably got something for you. We've got our coaching, both online and in person. We've got sports massage to help you recover from anything that you've been doing, whether that's just training or events. We're here to help you. We do that over at Heathwood Swimming School in Llanishen. And we've got outdoor activity days. We've lined up all of next year's adventures. So we've got loads of like 3 peaks and different mountain challenges going on. We've just got a bit of everything, and there's always more to come. So if you want to know more, send us a message, drop us a DM, an email, even a WhatsApp. And yeah, I'm sure we can get something set up for you guys. And the thing that's most important to me is being able to continually share these stories and everything with you guys. So the more this gets spread around, the more I can keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully one day make 2 episodes a week just like the standard thing, rather than the 1 a week that I've been doing for the past 2 years. Yeah, if I could make it twice a week, maybe even 3 times a week, get into proper podcasting territory, then I would absolutely love to do that for you guys. So the more you share it, like it, get the content out there, whether that's the Instagram clips, the shorts on YouTube, or watching the full episodes and sharing it with all your friends and family, I would really appreciate it. Until next time, guys.